Hey, I'm back. Um, Patching holes with weird videos that ended up in the Netherlands. I think even between now and the last video, oh, wrong side. Whoosh! It's like the winds of change have taken over. We're dealing with the Pathfinder right now, and the Pathfinder is the bomb. It's the bomb. You're gonna love this Pathfinder tool and find that it changes a lot about how you approach logo design, most digital design or illustration stuff. It has a place. It has a very important place, and it's really critical that you understand how to use it and make it work for yourself. All right, so here we go. Echo Land. All right, I have this document here that has got a bunch of shapes. And the Pathfinder really is the best way to work with different shapes and how they might work with each other. So let's have a recap on alignment. What if I wanted all of these 5 elements to be centered based on the center red rectangle? My last click would be on that rectangle that's red. And you can see that it gets highlighted. So once again, I just drag the box over those things. You could go click, hold shift, click, hold shift, click, hold shift, click. But you just have to remember that the final step is to identify your hero, your key object, and that is the red one. And we're going to say that we would like to align it based on its vertical center. So that did a couple of things. We lost our 2 little wings, but they are centered, right? So I could say, hey, I'm going to take this one and I'm going to hold down shift and use the arrow key and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to take the bottom one and go down, arrow, shift, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are just little steps of how you could sort of orchestrate your movements and choreograph your alignments by itself. This guy is like off on its own. So let's just first look at what we have here with the overlap of these 3 objects. We don't have an overlap of the 4th, but we're going to deal with that here in a second. So Pathfinder is a way for us to say, hey, what happens if I put this shape and I want to join it with this shape? And so you can click on one, hold down shift, click on another, and then Pathfinder is either in your properties or it is in your window. And there's Pathfinder. Mine is just over here in this little side pop-up thing. And there are shape modes and there are Pathfinders. So shape modes are all about you making different types of shapes from the ones that you have selected. So the first one is Unite. And Unite says, all right, well, you got 2 shapes selected. What happens if you just want to make them one? You go, boom. And now they are one. Notice I lost the color of blue. And that should be expected anytime you try to do some of these Pathfinder objects. I set it up this way just so you could kind of see that and understand that you're not going to be able to preserve those things in most shape modes. You can there are ways you can preserve them through Pathfinders, but so then I got this other orange one. Well, what if I would like this orange one to become part of this top one? I can say, cool, yeah, I'm going to select you both with shift, and we're going to say unite. Boom. Cool. So now it has this whole shape that is new and not based on 3 shapes. It's a singular object. If I take this last circle and I move it over, and I select and shift click on this guy, and I say unite, it is now one new object. Notice it took the color from the first clicked element and then married that into the rest. So those are just, I could do it differently and say, I want you first, you second. Hey, I did wrong button. And then I can say, bam. Oh, I didn't do it because it's on top. Takes the topmost object and occupies that color. So maybe I went to arrange and said send to back. I moved it over. Now you can see it's behind it. And then I select those and say bam. Now it's red. Okay. Oh man, the devil is in the details. Ugh, I can't even tell you. So that is the way that you can create one new shape out of 4 or 5 or whatever, how many. You can just do 2. But it's really a lovely method to get elaborate shapes and details into our graphics without having to use the pen tool and all that stuff to make them happen. You can kind of like mash them together, which is super great. So I'm going to hit undo a couple times. That's enough. All right. So the other options that we have are, if I were to take 2 objects and go to my Pathfinder and say, what happens if I minus the front? So right now the frontmost object is my red rectangle because it's on top of the blue one. I can tell because it has dominance visually. Boom, it'll cut away that form from the back one. It's great. What if I choose intersect? Then it creates a new shape based on where those objects were overlapping each other. That is also awesome and very helpful. So the last one is exclude, and what that does is it creates a hole, but these are now grouped together and there's a hole based on where they were overlapped. I'll hit undo again. So those are the shape modes that we have here. Then we have the Pathfinders, and the Pathfinders are very similar but kind of different. So if I was to say I took this blue circle and overlapped it on this green square, and I said, hey, let's divide it. I'm going to click divide. It's kind of hard to tell if anything happened. But if I were to click off, get my direct selection tool, I can see that what I have done is I have cut this into pieces based on that area of intersection of lines and paths. I will hit undo. Bring it back. Bring it back. Overlap them again. Select them both. Now we have something called trim. Trim does something else. You can't really tell what it did, but it says, hey, the topmost layer still is its own thing, but the background layer has now been cut. So it's like a stencil. It's a really great way to create things like stencils in your artwork. Now, if I were to overlap those two again, select both of them, and choose merge, what's the difference? It's nothing really much difference. It's very close to the same results as the past one, but it just puts more points in your path. Then we have crop and crop. Oh boy, so now the top layer, it's still present. Oh, come on, where are you? Still present, but it got rid of it. Like, how is that helpful? I'm not really sure. I don't really use it much. Thanks, Adobe. And then we have outline. Nope, I didn't do that right. I need to select both of them. So then outline creates an outline, a stroke, based on your solids. So here's a stroke. that is defined by the green. Here is a stroke that is defined by the blue. They also intersect each other, and you can kind of, whoops, hold on, move one away from the other, segments and things like that. So you just broke it down to the idea of strokes. And the last one is minus back. So it'll take away what the backmost layer is from the frontmost layer. So there are things that sort of kind of work in unison with each other. There are some mystery ones, but it really is an incredible way to make more defined shapes and elements that can work with your logo design or your asset creations and stuff like that. So, all right, I hope that was helpful, and more on the next stuff later.